cutting at terminal length and combing from there, or somewhere where you think a good haircut would be that you would like. There's multiple ways to do it, and there's gonna be a lot of hair on the floor no matter what, and you're gonna go through some stuff yourself. So you might have picked up by now that we're talking about cutting off your locks versus combing out your locks. Cold out there, guys. Check this out. Snowy days, man. Anyways, I got some stuff to talk about today. So if you don't know, my name is Shane Fell, and this is where we talk about hair. I've been studying hair since 2006, and I first started wearing locks on my head and studying locks back in '99. So you can imagine I might have a little info for you. So as you guys know, I recently have gone from locks to loose hair, and it's not an uncommon thing to happen. And I recently had a couple of different requests asking from viewers if I could do a video on that. And instantly I was like, dude, this fits perfectly. I just went through all of this, and you know, my process was a little more aggressive, and that's not necessarily the way it has to go. My process had more to do with grief and loss and the transition of getting through that, moving to forward. And by shaving the head, completely letting go of everything that I was holding on to, these kinds of things. This is a practice that I've been a part of for a very long time throughout my life, and so it's something that I've adopted and grown with throughout my lifetime. These are some ways of honoring the people that have passed and the heartache that it takes to go through that. Though transitioning from locks to loose hair doesn't have to necessarily be that aggressive. Shaving the head is something that's like, I am now shifting this, or don't have the patience to go through combing it out. I've combed out many sets of locks on my own head as well as on other people's heads. There is going to be a lot of hair left over. I think my client might be pulling up. There's gonna be a lot of hair left over on the floor. There always is. I feel like the main focus is how long do you wanna see your hair? Not only how long do you wanna see your hair when you're done taking the locks out, and it's gonna take a lot of time to comb them out. Think about how long your terminal length may have been prior. Where did you usually get to grow it to? Was it down to here? You know, was it down to waist or belly buttons? Was it mid-back more so? Or did we have like, you know, did we get down to décolleté area and that was about it? Any of these are a good viable measure to go cutting your locks and start combing from that point if you're trying to preserve as much length as we possibly can. You see, locks grow off of our hair cycles. It is the anagen, the catagen, and the telogen phase. And they're the three parts of a hair cycle. And the locks grow because the hair will fall out in the telogen phase and it'll wind up into the lock. The new little baby vellus hairs, as they grow, we start to place them back into that lock as it spirals through. Most of the internal ones stay. We kind of keep the external ones in through either like twist and lock, crochet work, finger manipulation, twisting at the bases and at the roots, and root rubbing, going through when things are wet and separating and putting all of the loose hairs around each one. All of these things are parts and pieces to maintenance on locks, and all we're doing is doing the same thing as keeping that hair in place. Well, that doesn't have to do with transitioning, it's just how it's working. So what's happening is those hairs at the end of the lock have all been terminal hairs. They're all the hairs that you would have already swirled on that shower wall and let drain down that drain. That shit would have been gone already, right? But it ended up in your locks the whole time. That's why we aren't shedding hair on the pillowcases and stuff the whole time we have locks. And so as a byproduct of this, our hair will go way longer than our terminal length will be necessarily, but the hair is really healthy inside of this lock, right? And so because locks are a protective style by nature, take out the crochet and possible broken hair in there from being too rough with them. There's protected hair in there. If there hasn't been any chemical damage done to the locks, the hair itself is healthy inside of that lock. It has been wet set multiple times into a knotted rope, which is what we're doing every time we're getting it wet and palm rolling it out. But that wet set is in the hair still, and so just like grandma's curlers came out and her hair was curly, all that hair that we've combed out when we're combing out the lock is gonna be twisty and kinky and curly, and so we're gonna have this froey bit that needs to get wet again, as well as it's probably gonna need some aiding in getting the coatings of like any of the buildup that's been stuck in there. There's gonna be some, no matter what. We need some lemon juice and some vinegars and different things like that, but it's important to get the hair wet and cleanse it, and brush it back out with conditioner as it's wet. Personally, I like to comb out dry and then put leave-in conditioner on that kinky curly hair afterwards and then go to the next lock. Other people tend to like to go wet and add detanglers and different things like that to get the hair out. I feel like it stretches the hair too much and I don't like to do that. I'd like to just like slowly, lovingly pick at the dreadlock and kind of get it out. It's really easy to go in and kind of get seams off of the outside of the lock and kind of peel out different parts and then start to go through the middle. There's multiple different techniques to get through your locks, though the biggest technique is probably patience. And then beyond that, there's repairing the hair, but the hair isn't necessarily damaged, it's just bringing the hair back to life, really. The hair will kind of go back to its original form fairly quickly. It's not a big deal, and it's not something to necessarily stress about a whole lot. But the next point that I want to make is that we as humans are emotional beings, and we are emotionally connected to what we see, especially with locks after we've cared for them and grown them and had them for a really long time. This emotional connection tends to click into our identity, which, you know, as humans, this is just how we go. We kind of feel like we've lost a part of ourselves. We feel like we missed something. We feel like maybe it was the wrong choice to do. There is a lot of ups and downs that we're gonna go throughout this process of grief, of losing our locks, right? And coming back into a natural flow hair state. Give me a moment, I gotta turn this off. In that emotional connection, we have our self and our identities slowly wrapped up in there, and then, so we tend to go through another ego death, and that little ego death, and I definitely went through that little ego death recently when I was going through my transition, and still am. Like, it's definitely a different part with life, it's a different feeling tone. I blend in at the store now. There's not a conversation piece on my head anymore. I don't have a walking advertisement on me anymore, so clientele's a different way. And inside of that is so much personal power. Just like when we grew into Locs, there's a lot of personal power to be had in the mirror, looking in the mirror, having your practices of styling your new hair, getting to love it, getting to know how it works, getting to do different things with it, enjoy it, get even frustrated with it, not be able to do stuff with it for a second. That's okay too, because that's the same thing that was happening when we were caring for our locks. We're caring for our new hair now. We're now caring for this new hairstyle that's in the mirror as well, and that's us. And so we want to care for that. And inside of that is where we get to know our new hair. And that's a beautiful thing, to have that new relationship with this thing. Which in the mirror is a really important time to pay attention to what our self-talk is. As if it isn't important to pay attention to this all the time, it's really important at this point in time. Brushing our teeth. And then also when we're in the mirror styling with our new hair, we want to have the narrative inside of our head and inside of our internal monologue or whatever. Apparently there's some people that say they don't have that. I don't believe them. Anyways, inside your internal monologue that is uplifting for yourself, as well as like having fun with this new thing. It's not trying to fall in love with your hair. It is falling in love with your new hair. That's an important aspect, I think. And so I've found that the practice of pulling the pin out of the map and going, you are here now. There's no contest at that anymore. The things are happened already. You're already in this spot. What from here can you do to move forward? Because there is no that stuff. There isn't anything back there, homie. I mean, there is, but it's memories, dude. So just like forward motion. And the best way to do that is to pull the pin out the map and for yourself and know where that place is. Personally, for me, I find a lot of power inside of this practice. And so no matter how you're transitioning from your locks to loose hair or thinking about doing it, there's multiple ways to do it, and there's gonna be a lot of hair on the floor no matter what, and you're gonna go through some stuff yourself. And I hope that this little video of how to transition from locks to loose hair is gonna kind of help you in your own journey of life, no matter what that is. Just know that things are gonna be cool, man. And that it's gonna be a process, and that anything you choose in life to do is probably gonna be a process. If it isn't, it might just be too good to be true. With that, I'm gonna leave you because I got a client showing up, and I'll see you guys later. Happy locking, peeps.